of Castle Hate Skull, I am Hella Mark Harley! Hey, back with another episode of Haters Will Say, with mucus in my mouth. All right, swallowed it because I'm a man. I'm not going to spit it out. I'm not disgusted by my own mucus, okay? I am okay with my body. Stop body shaming me. Stop mucus shaming me. That's going to end right here, right now. Boy, oh boy, am I extra excited today, because not only am I doing this podcast, but I bet a lot of you didn't even recognize me because, yes, I shaved. I know a lot of you are probably looking at the camera, at the screen going, Mark, who's that 19-year-old that has taken your place? Ha, surprise, it's Mark without a goatee. Why did I shave it? You know, it was just sort of in my head that too many people had picked up on the fact that my mom said my facial hair looks like the Tesla logo. So I said, maybe I would look better without a Tesla logo on my face. So I shaved it, realized like I'm cute either way. It doesn't really matter is the thing. You know, I'm out here getting chicks, getting dudes, getting animals. Animals still love me, you know. Put a cat in front of me, female cat, they're going to put their ass up in the air. Why? Because Daddy Harley's in the place, okay? In the place to be. Scratching that ass, working that ass, giving the cats what they want, whether they're in heat or not. Because a cat sees me, can't help it but go into heat, okay? We can start off supful with this. Supful, what's going on? I actually just reminded myself of the time I came back from a vacation and the cat we just had got only a couple months earlier suddenly had these gigantic balls on its stomach. And the only male cat that was in our household was neutered. So how could that possibly happen? You freak out and go, oh my God, it's cancer. Oh, yeah. But really it's not. Cats can have false pregnancies. If a male cat starts to hump a female cat in heat, the female cat's like, oh, I'm getting pregnant, right? And I just want to relate that back to, that's what happens when I talk to girls. They're like, oh, I'm pregnant now, aren't I? So it's just a thing that's happened with a lot of women that I talk to. Like I put a little bit of flirting in and all of a sudden they're like, they start pushing out their belly and they're like, I'm pregnant now. I'm like, it might be a false pregnancy. You're in heat around me and now your body thinks it's pregnant. It's a normal thing. Go to the doctor, figure it out. Anyway, so last episode, you guys probably didn't know this, but I had just come back from a harrowing trip to Northern California to see my family. Was it harrowing because of what I did in Northern California? No, it was harrowing because I had to wake up at 4 a.m. to come back, almost missed my flight. But I'm a savage. Made it. Took a Uber from Burbank to Calabasas and went straight into shooting the podcast. And didn't, you know, I wasn't there complaining about it. Sure, like I'm talking about it now, but I just wanted to prove to you, like, you won't even know, right? I could be operating on 3 hours of sleep. You guys don't know because I'm so advanced psychologically, I don't need sleep anymore. That's actually not true. Anybody who says that is a liar. Everybody needs 8 hours of sleep. And even if you can't detect the difference in your intellectual performance on 4 to 6 hours of sleep, we can test it and it's there. And if you think you're doing fine, you're not. Just like when you're drinking and you think you're fine to drive, you're not. Give me the keys, Drunky McGee. A long time ago during COVID, I bought a 92-pound Onnit kettlebell. This episode is not sponsored by Onnit, but Onnit, if you're interested, hit me up, all right? I bought a 92-pound kettlebell that I used a lot during quarantine. It was amazing. I do full body circuits with it. But now that I'm back at a gym, it's kind of, I'm not using it as much. So I thought I'd bring it home to my mommy. Shout out Evelyn. So I just want to give you a little insight into this wonderful senior citizen who I call my mom. Evelyn Harley swims most days of the week. She walks up hills most days of the week. And now she's going to be doing deadlifts with 92 pounds at 72 years old most days of the week because I told her to. And my mom listens to me, unlike some of you who haven't smashed that subscribe button yet. Do it. When you are aging, right? I saw this MRI scan. I think it was an MRI. It looks like at a cross section of your muscle, whatever that is. I'm no doctor. I'm no MRIologist. So it looked at a picture of somebody, I believe they were in their 70s, maybe 80s, but the difference between the muscle tissue in somebody who is sedentary for most of their life, even for the past, let's say 20, 30 years, versus somebody who is still active, like, even doing things just like walking up hills, swimming, etc. It was night and day. I mean, you can barely see the muscle in the octogenarian who, like how I fit in that word, octogenarian, just to flex on y'all. That means someone who's old. The muscle mass in an octogenarian who was sedentary was like almost non-existent. And you think about people who you fall, you have these accidents, it's hard to get up. It's just this general principle that I always think about, that people have these excuses, and they could be from anything, from anybody at any age telling me, oh, well, I used to be in shape. And this literally almost happens daily to me. A guy who I talked to, I was outside of Denny's. Yes, I ate at Denny's, get over it. I was at a Denny's and this guy starts talking to me, as people tend to do. They'll shout out at me. Like when you're just a little buff, people are like, what do you do? What do you tell me about working out? And that's fine. I'll always engage with them if I can. And this guy was like, well, I used to be buff. Now I'm 40. And it's like, well, I'm 38. So, I guess you just need steroids. No, but this guy, like, they'll have this excuse, like being 40, but then you dig a little deeper and it's like, well, I have a sweet tooth and I eat candy all day. Okay, that's not great. But there's always something else going on that's not about just the aging, but people sort of look at like, well, I'm getting old, so of course my muscle's deteriorating. But you can really do these little things like go for walks or do basic exercises that can totally mitigate that. So when you look at my mom, you wouldn't, like, she doesn't look muscle bound. She doesn't look like some, bodybuilder who you're going to see on CNN, like 80-year-old bodybuilder is still competing after a lifetime. She just looks like a normal old lady. She doesn't look fat or anything, but she's not like one of these OCD workout freaks that you see at the gym where you're like, you look like, you haven't had a carb in 23 years. She just looks like, she looks normal. She looks healthy, but she works on these little things every day and she makes it a routine that her happiness is centered on. And now I'm adding in this resistance training because things like, picking shit up off the floor with deadlifts or lifting stuff overhead also strengthens your spine, right? So as you age and your spine starts to crumple, you can mitigate that and not be a hunchback in Notre Dame by adding in some deadlifts, right? Getting a kettlebell, doing stuff like that. So shout out to Evelyn. You're my hero. I love you. If you're watching this, just know I still love you. And, I'm going to try to visit more. Okay. I love you. Now, my little brother, Andy, I'm going to talk about him for a second. Andy's like me, but shorter and bigger. Okay. We play football together. He's a big dude, really strong, always like naturally stronger than me. He's got 2 kids. He's got a full-time job, all these things that, I don't have that make it easier to surround, to fixate my entire life on being buff. Right. But he actually has, for a big guy, this is another thing where I go, what's your excuse? My brother has run half marathons, double dipsies, is actually, done these long distance competitions and in general run the type of mileage that you would never expect looking at him. And he'll go on runs with people who are smaller than him and he can outrun them. You'd always outrun people during wrestling practice. He'd beat like most of the smaller guys. And I think that just comes from not confining yourself. Well, I'm big, so I can't run. No, it's not true. You can get in shape and run even if you're overweight. Might be a little more difficult, but you can still do it. So what I wanted to say is he's been trying to lose more weight and had a severe ankle injury, like a severe sprain that he's recovering from while he was just trying to get back into running. Now, instead of going, oh, well, I can't do anything, he still was able to work on his diet, reduce his calories, start walking again, extend that out. And I believe he's lost like 20 or 30 pounds. So good for him. And I'm just saying, it's another example, another one of my premises that, you should not take these little setbacks and go, well, can't do anything, right? Back to doing nothing, back to being sedentary, my ankle hurts. Find a way to do something and you can still accomplish great results if you can be willing to think outside of the box. And the final thing that is going to wrap up my trip home to Northern California is my buddy Marty Smith, who I was able to work out with. This is a guy who I used to, when I was fresh out of college, he was a freshman in high school, and I was the line coach on his football team. He had some questions about deadlifting and some other basic core exercises that when I visited home to Northern California, the last time I went there was in February, and we met up and he asked if I could come coach him. Well, Yes, I will, you know, and I found that that's a great way to like reconnect with people is like, hey, if we can't meet up for coffee or dinner, something like that, let's go lift, right? I could teach you this. And oftentimes people give you something in return of, you know, people giving me like music production lessons or like, here's how to use an app to do this that I wouldn't normally do. They'll pay you back in some way. In this case, well, Marty actually did when I went and coached him on deadlifts, he gave me vodka and fresh baked cookies, which is awesome. I enjoy both of them. But really, when I'm on vacation or visiting home, a lot of times you'll find excuses. This goes for anything. You're on vacation and like you think you're going to work out, but then you don't. This time I made sure to reach out to Marty and say, hey, let's get some sessions in, right? And it works out for him because he was interested in DC training because he was like, I want to switch it up. I'm like, maybe you should try DC training, which I've talked about before, which is this low volume, high intensity protocol. That's just just requires a little bit of research and coaching to get started. So I want to be held accountable. Like if I set a time and I tell you I'm going to be at the gym at 4, well, now I got to show up and I can't put that off anymore. So I got in 3 good lifting sessions while I was home for a week and, he got some coaching. So that's an example of if you're in the position of like, you want to know something, you don't have to be somebody's gym buddy forever. You can be like, hey, can I shadow you? Can I just lift with you for a day? It doesn't even have to be personal training per se, because we can both lift and then you get something out of it and I get a gym buddy for the day. And even articulating some of the principles helps keep my toolkit as a personal trainer fresh because you practice expressing this in terms that will make sense to somebody who has less experience than you, which I think is a really valuable skill set to have. And yeah, so if you know somebody, like maybe you see, I've had people around the gym be like, hey, can I work out with you? And it's like, yeah, if you're not going to take away my time, or like not interrupt me too much, sure, we can lift together. I encourage you to do that. Make friends at the gym. Talk to people. Don't hit on girls if they have their earbuds in, okay? Can we just agree on that? They don't want to talk to you. I'm talking about guys. Girls don't want to lift with you. It's weird, okay? Stop it. All right, so we got this is why we can't have nice gyms. I have a couple of videos here that we're going to look at that have to do with people getting really upset at people deadlifting, and mainly the noise that you make when you drop a deadlift. People, for some reason, get really upset about, and I've seen this happen before in Planet Fitness. We all know, like, you can't drop any weights of any sort, or they sound some alarm because it's like intimidating, whatever. The lunk alarm goes off and you're going to get kicked out of the gym. I remember in 24-hour fitness in Hollywood, I used to do like deadlifts and cleans, and I wasn't even necessarily trying to drop the weight, but they would always, like, if I dropped something on the second floor, because it's a multi-floor gym, I'd get over the loudspeaker, whoever's dropping weights on the floor, please stop. And I'd always be like, fuck you, you can't tell me what to do, huh? This is interesting to me because it's like this fundamental exercise that for so many gyms across the planet, I guess, and so many people, these guys that you're going to see in the video, it's not like they're puny guys. It's like other buff guys coming in and saying, this is so offensive that you can't do it anymore. So let's take a look at this clip right now. We're kind of seeing the aftermath of what's happening, but this guy's up in this guy's face, like, what's up, dude? Get the fuck out of here. I can't believe you're deadlifting on carpet. And you made a clangy noise 5 times, right? Now, he goes ahead and starts it anyway, but this guy's in his face, looking like he wants to fight him. He's yelling at him. Now, my first question is, do you think you're making less of a disturbance by yelling at this dude in the middle of a gym that's also playing music, in the middle of a gym that's also, you hear clanging weights here and there from the stacks, from racking a bench press makes weight. Everything makes weight, but for some reason, I guess if you hear a little vibration too, because it hits the ground, what is the logic that makes a deadlift somehow different or offensive than any other lift? If you can tell me, I'll give you $1,000. Just kidding. I don't have $1,000. Come on. Now, the second clip here is, this is a famous one that was making the rounds on the internet. Up to that point, he's been doing very controlled reps with this deadlift. He's in an area all by himself. It looks like the closest person is like 40 feet away, and we see the guy in the background coming up. He's approaching him, but he's got pads on the ground, so it can't even be that loud, right? He's away from everyone, doing relatively controlled reps. He's not throwing it on the ground. He's just, and he kicks him. He tries to kick the bar out of his hand. He gets him in the nuts, totally inappropriate. Don't ever touch another man's nuts with your foot unless he's into that. So an argument ensued, and again, the same posture. You know, this guy's like ready to fight. He's ready to die in this hill of like, you can't make noise at a gym. We can also hear that there's music in the gym. This can't be the noisiest thing in the gym, and now you are the noisiest thing in the gym. He's assaulting this dude, grabbing him, pushing him. Pushed him really hard right there. And I guess the guy backs down, which is a smart thing to do, because it's like, yeah, let's not get in a fist fight at the gym over deadlifts. You know, get in a fist fight in the gym over, who's going to be on the Stairmaster. That's a legitimate thing to fight about, but not over deadlifts. So I guess my takeaway is it's just funny how we've selected this one particular lift, the deadlift. The deadlift can't be done. It's just too noisy. I mean, you know how noisy it is when we go to zoo culture, right? The music, well, the zoo culture is a bad example because they allow you deadlifts. You can be as noisy as you want. You can take your shirt off. You can do whatever. You can film. But other gyms the music will often be that loud. And I put my own headphones in to cover that. But it's like you've got this garbage music blaring in your ear the whole time. You got the spin class that you can hear like, all right, here we go. Like, this is a noisy environment. If this dude is deadlifting in a library, then that might be okay, but still, I doubt a librarian would pick a fight with you. So there's people who get super upset about rules, and those are the type of people that we're looking at versus the people who are just there in the gym to get a good workout in. And I think at some level, even though those people, like the guys stopping him, were muscular, they looked in shape, but they were more concerned about following the rules than they were about actual fitness. Because if you were concerned about fitness, you'd be like, yeah, there's a young man working out, improving himself. And that's cool. But instead you're like, fuck that guy. I'm going to fucking beat his ass. He can't make noise in a fucking gym. That's so stupid. I can't believe he would drop a deadlift on the floor and I'm going to fight him about it. And that's why we can't have nice gyms. We are back with another segment of Mark Harley's Bro Science Academy. Today, we're going to look at a really interesting topic that has come up frequently in my personal life a lot, and is something I just watched a really interesting video on that I'm going to try to recap a little bit and point you towards, but it has to do with artificial sweeteners, whether they're good or bad for you, whether they do the things that the critics of artificial sweeteners sort of claim that they do. So I'll give you a brief rundown of how this has come up in my own life. I like Diet Coke. I've used Diet Coke when dieting. Like, I will include one diet, if I'm buying it and I'm doing all my meal prep, I'll have like a Diet Coke at lunch, right? And it's one of these things that tastes good. And when you are not eating a lot of sugar, I've noticed, it tastes sweet. You don't mind it. You're not like, oh, this tastes like crap. And maybe some people don't like it, whatever. But when I was a kid growing up, I ate a lot of candy, had a lot of cavities, drank a lot of soda. In my mind, I remember like rollerblading to the store and thinking like, this will outweigh the 800 calories in candy that I'm about to eat and Pepsi and, and I think that's pretty common. We just had no concept of like, this is the worst thing in so many ways that you can eat because it's both addictive and having caffeine as a kid. I remember having like caffeine withdrawal headaches if I didn't have a Coke. It's terrible, right? Some point I grew out of that, and probably just from realizing that like, yeah, you can consume a tremendous amount of calories in liquid form, these 50 grams of sugar. I mean, each Coke is what, 200 calories-ish? You can correct me on that, but I'm thinking like 40 to 50 grams of sugar. But it's not like most people are drinking Coke. Yeah, what is that? Total calories, 140, 150 in a 12-ounce can. Yeah, so imagine you're drinking 5 of those, because most people who I know who drink Coke, you're having one at every meal or whatever. Again, you can, it's not too hard to think you could get to 400 or 500 calories a day. And over the course of a week, that's a pound of fat that could be stored or could be lost that you're offsetting with just a few Cokes a day. So I've always thought it's a great substitute to get something with 0 calories in it that basically tastes the same, and especially if you're not eating sugar. Now, anytime I've had Diet Cokes on me, there's a certain type of person that will be like, that is so bad for you. It's worse than, you might as well just have a regular Coke. Thinking of a specific mama whose kid I used to tutor in Malibu. That's the worst thing you can drink. Oh, it's just going to destroy everything. It actually makes you fatter, and it actually is going to destroy your gut biome and all this stuff. there's this narrative out there that drinking Diet Coke is somehow worse for you than drinking regular Coke, right? Or just it's bad because of chemicals, right? And that's one thing I'll always hone in on as, this is the number one indicator that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. If you tell me something's bad because it has chemicals in it, you've probably never taken a chemistry class, because everything around us is a chemical. Have you looked at the periodic table, right? Everything is made of individual component elements that chemicals comprise of. So you can break down any food into its component chemical parts. Organic chemistry is the chemistry of food and living things, right? So, if you're saying something's inherently bad because it has chemicals and other natural foods don't, that's actually not true. And I was watching this video, a discussion between Dr. Layne Norton and Greg Doucette. Both have great channels, great information, great insight into bodybuilding and the science of the things that we do in fitness, such as hypertrophy and dieting and all these stuff. And they really broke it down, and it was something that I had an instinct that these things were false. I'm like, okay, if that's true, then I would have been getting fat drinking all this Diet Coke. And when I go out to a restaurant, sure, I'll have 6 Diet Cokes. And people look at me like I'm a fucking crazy person. And they're right. But that has nothing to do with the fact that I drink 6 Diet Cokes in a sitting. Okay. Just means that I'm going to pee a lot. Or maybe puke everywhere. Who knows what I'm going to do? All right. I like to party, dude. I've just noticed that the responses people have when I push back a little bit are usually uninformed. And I'm not blaming anybody, because you hear something and you pass it on. This is all of fitness, is people going like, I heard this works. I heard that. I heard this food is bad and this food is good. But then you push back and you're like, where did you hear that from? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, I can tell, because you're not providing any backup for this position that you've staked out that to me seems ridiculous. So when somebody goes like, Diet Coke's bad for you, I go, is it? Is it though? So in this discussion, they talk about a number of things that I'll try to quickly recap. Number one, the gut microbiome. They talk about this researcher, one of the leading gut microbiome researchers in the country. Layne Norton met up with her, and they were like, having lunch, and she cracks open a Diet Coke, right? And you would think the leading gut biome researcher in the country, or one of the top ones, if Diet Coke affected your gut microbiome, because that's the meme that has been sold to us, that it destroys the chemicals in Diet Coke, destroy the flora in your gut, which would be bad if it was true, but turns out that comes from this notion that in a study, you drop some of either Diet Coke or the chemical in, what is it, like a artificial sweetener, aspartame or sucralose. You drop some of it, on a bacteria in a petri dish and it destroys it. Sure, yeah, that could happen in a petri dish when you're dropping this enormously concentrated amount of an artificial sweetener, which we actually use way less of because it's like 600 times sweeter than sugar, right? So the most you can say is it would adversely affect bacteria in a petri dish in a lab environment, but you can't necessarily say that it has any effect on a gut microbiome in a human, and the studies just don't pan out. The second thing was insulin response. Some people will go, you get this insulin spike because it tricks your body into thinking that it's sugar, but turns out that's not true, because if you did have an insulin spike when there's no carbohydrates causing that, you would go hypoglycemic, right? So you would have these symptoms of hypoglycemia, like I think they're, you sort of get clammy and fatigued and feel like you're going to pass out. It's my understanding. I'm not an expert in it, but I do have clients that are have diabetes, and they have to monitor their insulin, and will kind of go like, yeah, I'm feeling like this. I got to check my insulin and get some sugar right away. So some things would happen if that was happening. And then you could actually test to see if you ingest artificial sweeteners or diet sodas, does the insulin respond adversely? And it doesn't. Oh my God. And the third thing is, that kind of relates to these two things, is like, okay, if your insulin is spiking and that's bad, and then you're going to link it like it makes you hungrier or something like that, and then you're going to lead to weight gain, right? The third thing is like, somehow it's whatever it's doing in your body, whatever this magical process is, it's leading to weight gain. Turns out that's not true, because when you compare drinking diet sodas versus water, it's either the exact same as far as like weight loss outcomes, or diet soda would win a little bit, right? So that takes care of like what they're discussing in that video. I encourage you to seek it out and watch it. It's only like 15 minutes. Layne Norton, Greg Doucette. But my takeaway is, yeah, this is a tool. It's a hack, right? And I'm all about these hacks in dieting where you take something that doesn't have any calories, or it has way less calories than the thing you like a real Coke, and it still scratches that itch. If you have a sweet tooth, if you like sugar, if you like even just like, I drink sparkling water because part of the fun of soda is just having something fizzy, right? So I like to figure out what scratches that itch without making me a fat ass, right? And turns out diet soda does just that. Scratch that itch, don't get fat, be cool like me, shut down the haters. All the diet soda haters out there, you can suck it. Okay, so got a new segment this week called Hella Sick Fitness Pages. This idea came to me because there are so many pages on Instagram that I go to, also on YouTube, that I want to start highlighting because, as I've said a couple times before, I want to act as an intermediary. I digest a lot of this information and spend maybe more time online looking at different information sources and want to pass on a condensed form of that to people like you, or go, you should check this out. I want to point you in the right direction to empower yourself to learn more with your own research and find your own resources and see what works for you. Because I can tell you what to go read. I can tell you to go read X book and X study and go to this page, but maybe you will, maybe you won't, and maybe something's going to resonate for you. Now, the page I wanted to highlight today is a page called RepWorks, spelled RepWorks, like work. Oh, you better work that dumbbell. I have a pre-existing relationship with RepWorks, full disclosure, and the guy who runs the page, Nash, has helped coach me in my deadlift. He's helped coach me, and I'm going to throw some videos up there of him deficit deadlifting 585. I'll send you that video. And front squatting 405 with amazing form. And he's a pretty young guy. He's in his early 20s. This guy, reached out to me about doing a sponsored ad on the page. And I was like, you know what? I thought about it, and he's willing to give me some money to plug the page, but I'm like, you've already given me a lot of value. He sent me a deadlift program, a 10-week deadlift program that put like 90 pounds on my deadlift. If you've been following me, I didn't put the actual workouts that he did for me, but it was really interesting workouts with like exact rests, exact reps, calculating the percentage of everything. Now, he's really good at that. I know some of this stuff, but Nash is very advanced and can give me just this, absolute specifics. Do this day and this percentage and these reps and that rest time. And even though I'm relatively advanced as a bodybuilder, to have stuff like that with regards to strength training with specific lifts, like, hey, I want to get my deadlift up. He hands me, a PDF he's been working on that he could, sell for $50 probably, gives me that value. And it really helped me out tremendously. In addition to me sending him videos, and he'd give me critiques. Now, he's younger than me. He gives me critiques. Some people that I coach are older than me. So that's another fitness concept to think about. I don't have this hierarchy in my mind of like, I've been lifting longer than somebody, so, they must, I must know more than them. That's not always the case, and rarely is it, a direct link, because this guy has a specialty. RepWorks is cool because you can go to their page and basically, I'm looking at the grid, every single square on their Instagram page is a specific workout revolving around a compound lift, overhead press, deadlift, bench, front squat, conditioning work. This is one of those resources where people will hit up me like, hey, can I get a workout real quick? And I'll try to fire one off. I have my own specialties for like, okay, I'm going to give you a full body circuit, et cetera, or a quick DC workout. But if you're looking for something where it's like revolving around a specific compound lift you're trying to improve, so like the first one here is overhead press, 6 sets of 6 barbell overhead press, aim for 5 to 10 pounds heavier than last week, 10-second hold on first and last rep of each set. Then B is accumulate 400 meters of dumbbell overhead walk. So he's got a really interesting exercise variety in there, but it's usually just like an A, B, and C. A primary mover, back off work, and then some either conditioning or supplemental auxiliary work to round it out. So they're probably can all be done in under an hour, lots of variety, and you can choose your own adventure here with whatever movement you want. So I'm going to have you look at that and just begin this series of people, and hopefully after every time I do one of these, people will pay me money. That's why I'm really doing it. I want you to pay me fucking money. Where's my money, Nash? Okay? I said I'd do this. Now give me the goddamn money. Okay. We have another Hella Chef Harley segment for everybody today to learn all the magic that I produce in the kitchen. I didn't go to culinary school. I went to Mark Harley's Bro Science Academy of Cooking. So today I wanted to tell you all about a little recipe that I use that's super quick to make and is high protein and also delicious. I'll always talk about scratching that itch of something that you actually like to eat and then replacing it with something that is high protein and still scratches that itch, but is good for your diet and for weight loss purposes and has, in this case, especially a high volume, but lower calorie recipe, right? So you're going to be filled up on this. You're going to get protein and it also tastes really good. I call this faux froyo because you're mixing it tastes like frozen yogurt. Like if you haven't had a lot of frozen yogurt, if you're deprived from sugar, but it kind of scratches the itch because of the texture. It has a little sweetness and it just the overall fun of eating something like this, because what you're going to do is combine non-fat Greek yogurt. I didn't bring in the cold stuff, okay? I brought in the dry stuff. You get 2 cups of, I use like the Fage, but you can use any non-fat Greek yogurt. 2 cups of that, right? Really high protein. It's like 20, 21 grams of protein per cup of non-fat yogurt. And it doesn't taste bad either. Maybe you don't like the texture of it, but it doesn't taste bad. So you get 2 cups of that, put it in a bowl, put in a cup of Magic Spoon cereal. No, I'm not sponsored by Magic Spoon, but they should sponsor me. If they knew what the fuck they were doing, my God, it's like, get on the ball, Magic Spoon. I'm waiting for the phone call, Magic Spoon. Call me, dude. Yeah, my number changed recently. Figure it out. I'm not that hard to reach. DM me. I respond to every single person who DMs me, but you're not DMing me. What's going on? So you put a cup in there, 2 cups of the yogurt, 2 tablespoons of the peanut butter powder, because that mixes well with this, right? Gets the yogurt tasting like peanut butter too, because otherwise it's pretty plain. Add a little bit of artificial sweetener. I brought in this whole bag of stevia, which is more like the bag you'd get for cooking. A couple packets of Splenda, really not that much to sweeten it up a little bit. Maybe like a little spritz of honey just to add something, and then a cup of blueberries. Or you could use a banana, or frozen cherries, or mixed berries, whatever you want, but that kind of adds like the feeling of that cold ingredient that you might get, like the fruit ingredient in your frozen yogurt. But between this, the crunch, the cold texture of the frozen yogurt, the additional sweetness with no calories, it's actually a really fun thing to eat. And imagine going, scoop of this, 2 scoops of the yogurt, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, blueberries and honey, well under, if you're taking 5 minutes to make that, then you're going like, right? Should take you about 90 seconds to make that. Let's look at the calories. 508 calories. That is not a lot. For how much this fills you up, like sometimes I'll get to the end and I have a huge appetite. I'll get to the end like, oh my God, I could almost barely finish this, but it tastes good to the end. It's just like, you're filled by it. It's 508 calories. The protein, 46% protein, 35% carbohydrate, 19% fat. So it's pretty well balanced, like in a high protein, moderate carb, low fat ratio. And the exact macronutrients are 61 grams of protein, 45 grams of carbs, which is a good moderate, like you could eat that for pre-workout, something like that. It's not that much. And I always like to try to have my protein a little bit higher than my carbs in most meals on a high protein, moderate carb diet. So it fits that. And then only 11 grams of fat, mainly from the peanut butter powder and the Magic Spoon. That's the part that makes it taste good. It's low in carbohydrates, but they have a little bit of fat in there. It's a magical recipe. I urge you all to try it. If you don't like it, I'm not going to give you your money back, but I will slap the shit out of you because you have bad taste and you just shouldn't be telling me anything, okay? You have no right to tell me my recipes. Where are your recipes, huh? Where's your Hella Chef Harley? Where's your Hella Chef Nobody? Because nobody knows who you are and you can't even cook and you're not even good at making stuff in the kitchen that other people will want, okay? So before you criticize me about my fro-yo, maybe you should think about why you don't have any recipes of your own and you just go home and not think about it anymore and I don't like you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another help. I'm on steroids. No! So this week, a guy messaged me. It's always people asking about Anavar. Why can I take Anavar just alone? Can I just take pills? If I don't want to inject my body, can I just take pills? Is that okay? Can I take oral steroids? Isn't that the same thing? No, don't do it. I mean, you could do it, but it's just the consequences of it are going to be bad because let me just give a quick recap of everything I've told you before about why orals shouldn't be taken on their own without a test base. You're going to take Anavar. You'll get some results from it. It's a mild anabolic steroid that women can use too in the dose of 5 to 10 milligrams, and men use from 25 to 50 to 75 milligrams would be an effective dose to increase your strength, get dry, lean gains. It kind of gives you an appearance of hardening. So, this is probably, people speculate like Zac Efron and Baywatch was on Anavar. It would sort of make sense because he has the look. I'm not saying whether he is or not. I don't know. I don't really care. But it's a look that competitors, like especially like female, like fitness competitors, it's mild enough that it's not going to turn you into a guy overnight, but it has this effect of making you look hard and dry, right? So, but there's also this fallacy of guys like, I want to take this to get ripped. Steroids don't really make you lose fat. If you're already under 10% body fat, Anavar will make you look great, or make you look slightly leaner. If you're above that, but anything over 12% body fat, you're not going to notice, okay? And it doesn't help you burn fat directly. It can help you gain more muscle or partition nutrients to some degree, but it's not going to increase the thermogenesis that will, is ultimately responsible for burning fat. Your body temperature isn't going to be raised. You're not going to be, doesn't magically burn fat cells. It just makes more muscle, right? So there's no steroid that you can take that's going to get you ripped. It can assist you in keeping muscle as you go into a caloric deficit, but that's an indirect mechanism. So get this out of your head. What steroid's going to take to get ripped? Nothing. You have to go on a diet, fatty. So another guy asking me about this, and I go, you got to take a test base. Like if you're going to run Anavar, it's mild and it won't shut you down immediately per se, but it's going to shut down your own testosterone production, right? And the reason I say run a test base is because you want some of the neuroprotective effects of a little estrogen conversion. So if you stop producing testosterone, your body's not going to convert any testosterone, because there's none there, into estrogen. And estrogen has a heart protective effect and a neuroprotective effect because androgens are neurotoxic, right? It's like, the more androgens you have in your brain, you're kind of like redlining your whole body. You're able to, you're kind of like on, you're got this fight or flight signal around the clock, right? You're going to maybe sleep less. You're going to be amped up more. That's great for when you want to work out or do certain things that are like, testosterone-y, aggressive, that require that energy. But when it's time to relax and be calm and go to sleep, that's not so great for that. So you want to have a little estrogen in order to balance that out. If you take away the test because you're putting in compounds that shut that down, no estrogen. So you want to put a little test in your body that's always safe. And then also, like, if you're just taking Anavar, you shut yourself down, the gains are going to go away afterwards. People don't realize it's like taking an oral steroid for 8 weeks. Like, what do you think is going to happen afterwards? You're going to go right back to the same place most of the time. So you want to, have that test base running. So maybe you can bridge to the next thing, right? Because the real idea is like, don't just do, one cycle, plan it out, see how it goes. But, unless you're doing a full post-cycle therapy, you really want to try to do, something longer term. That's the smart approach to actually build towards something. Because if you just do it once, most likely, and I've just seen it many times, like, oh, I did this, you got results, but they went away. So that doesn't feel great either. Now, that's really not the main point of this video. The main point was I told him to do the test base, and he messaged me back like a few days later with this canister that says test on it, I guess, or some, it's like one of these like crazy labels. It's like test 3000. And it's like, that's a test booster that you bought at GNC because you went and say, hey, do you have test? And you don't know that I mean injectable testosterone because you don't fucking know anything and you shouldn't be taking steroids in the first place. If I say take test and you think that means go to GNC to ask the guy who's behind the counter for test, and he looks at you sideways and you don't know why, then you shouldn't be taking steroids, dickhead. You're not a dickhead. You're a nice person. You're just misinformed. But he was unaware that there was a difference between a test, like actually injecting bioidentical testosterone into your body, and a test booster. So he comes back to me. He's like, is this good? And it's like, now, I don't blame people either, because the entire industry, the supplement industry, is pushing these products on you as if they're effective. But in actuality, in actual reality, if actuality isn't a word, I'm hedging my bets there. There is no proven effect that test boosters have. Or even if it is, like if injectable testosterone is this much, a test booster is this much. So insignificant that you might as well just flush your money down the toilet, because here's what's going to really help your test if you're not injecting tests: getting better sleep, lifting heavy shit, eating a lot of protein, doing these things that you should be doing anyway to gain muscle mass. You can do better on your own by doing things that are just, it's hard to get in bed and stop looking at your phone and get that 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Doing squats, deadlifts, all the core heavy lifts that kind of suck, those increase your test, I'm sure, much more than these fake test booster products. So this is really kind of a message to anybody going, I'm going to use a test booster as a post-cycle therapy. It's not going to work. You want to get HCG. That's the only thing, but you still have to inject that into your belly fat or subcutaneously anywhere on your body. HCG will boost your own testosterone production, right? But then you also want to pair that with Nolvadex and Clomid as a post-cycle therapy. But if you're just looking to increase your own testosterone, unfortunately, these test boosters that are being hawked by, who's that NFL player? They're like, hey, is that so-and-so? Yeah, I've been taking test booster 3000, it's like, it's all the late night, yeah, it makes my dick hard. So if you're watching TV at a certain time, you watch certain YouTube videos that are geared towards male improvement or whatever, they know dudes are watching on the NFL, UFC, it's always these test booster products. They're full of shit. They do not work. Stop taking these test booster products. Man up, stick the needle in your ass, okay? Okay, we have another glorious Hater of the Week segment for you. Haters, the gift that keeps on giving, because like I've said before, they all fall into these same categories of just, being stupid, pathetic, self-contradictory, not realizing that they're making my point as they're trying to tear me down, right? It's like, you're playing right into my game. This guy comes to my YouTube page. This is another example of how they all fit the same pattern. He doesn't have a real name. When I go on YouTube, and I will comment to you from my own personal YouTube page that says Mark Forbes Harley. So it's me. My haters have a hard time with that. It's usually people who, either have some nonsense name or no avatar, no followers, no posts, no videos about themselves, because when they do, we've seen how that turns out. And it doesn't turn out well for anybody with a public profile, because we get to be like, hey, and here's you. Oh, and here's you. Here's what you look like. And here's what you do for a living. And here's what you achieved in your life. Doesn't stack up, does it? Against almost anybody. And you just shouldn't be talking shit in the first place. So a guy with the avatar of Carl Winslow and a handle that says Family Lives Matters, which is pretty clever. I'll give him that. But, of course, you're talking shit from an anonymous profile because you're a coward. He says, this dude's a goof, the type of dude to post 80 Insta stories. What's the point of that? As if that's an inherently bad thing. Yes, I post memes all day. What you're not going to see me do is be like, hey, what's up, everybody? I'm just drinking my liquid death. I just made a smoothie. I'm out here right now, just working out. I don't do all that shit. And that's like 1 out of 100 stories. I'll post like a selfie or something like that. I post memes because I think it's funny and everybody seems to like them and it's a way to brighten people's day. So that's the point of that. I post a lot of Insta stories that are memes because memes are funny and people send me memes and I follow meme pages and I want to share that with the world. Got it? You didn't come up with that. Now, you'll notice he's criticizing me for not coming up with my own original content under an hour-long video of my own original content. Let that sink in. You're going, you didn't even come up with this thing you post. And I'm like, you are on a YouTube page where all I do is write my own material and then speak about it for an hour. Oops. Next, he says, you're the type of guy that constantly uses Step Brother and Adam Sandler movie quotes. And when people give a courtesy laugh, they think you're funny. Oh, is that what I do? Have I ever done that? Have I ever quoted an Adam Sandler movie to anyone in this room? All my best friends and everybody who I've known through my whole life, they're all here right now to validate the fact that I've never done that. And sure, I'll quote it a Step Brothers. This movie is fucking hilarious. That's another thing is like, that's an oddly specific thing. It sounds like some guy who beat the shit out of you used to quote Step Brothers and Adam Sandler movies, and now you're taking it out on me. anonymously on the internet. I'm sorry that you were beat up by a guy who used to quote Adam Sandler movies and Step Brothers, and people laughed at him. But, you know, that was like memes back in the day. And like, you know, 2004, like the meme was just being like, I love you, Dad, you know, or did we just become best friends? Now we've moved on. And I don't do that. So it's an oddly specific thing to like trash and then be like, ugh, that sucks. And you're the type of guy who does that. And that's the only reason you think you're funny. Projection, right? Projection. All these haters project. I go, that's an oddly specific little fantasy you just made up about me with no evidence whatsoever, and then claimed it to be true. So I get to just be like, my rebuttal is, that's not true. You can't hurt my feelings when it's not true. If it were true, it would hurt my feelings. So maybe you should hire a private investigator and see what kind of movies I really am quoting to other people. Then come back to me. And if it's true, ooh, it's gonna sting so bad. And you'll have won. But guess what? You're a fucking loser, so you'll never win. Bye-bye. Family lives matters. Thank you guys for listening to another fantastic episode. If I don't say so myself, I really want to just give a shout out to everybody who helped vote me as the most handsome new podcaster of 2021. I really appreciate that. It was a surprise to me. I didn't even know the vote was going on. And then all of a sudden I get this plaque in the mail, like, you've been voted the most handsome new YouTube podcast of 2021 for the month of October. And I'm like, me? Little old me, most handsome podcaster. Stop, keep going. No, it's don't even just, but a little more, okay? I appreciate you guys listening. Rumor has it some of you still haven't smashed that subscribe button or dinged the notification bell so that you can get dinged when my ding-a-ling is ready to sing-a-ling. I don't know what that means, but we're gonna stay with it. Don't edit that out. I swear to God, if you edit that part out, I will quit this fucking podcast and